You've waited a lifetime to look better and feel better, and now here's your chance. Fitness Friday on WNDB. Call 239-0033 and have your questions answered on health, fitness, and a better life. Fitness Friday is brought to you by Bodez by Tasso & Company, 1140 West Granada Boulevard in Ormond Beach. And now, here's your host, Tasso Kyriakis.
Welcome to Fitness Friday today. It's a beautiful day. It's, what is it, almost the middle of July.
It's July 11th, not quite the middle yet.
Well, the 15th the middle. Can you believe it?
No, I do believe it.
Oh, man. Great race last week.
Oh, yeah, it was fun.
You know, very unfortunate. Our boy Chase Elliott was in second place the whole race and runs out of gas.
Things happen.
Typical daggum 18-year-old.
Things
runs out of
happen,
gas and on the way
right.
to the finish line, huh?
Yeah, you never return a car with gas in the tank, no?
You know, I asked Chase the next day when we worked out. I said, Chase, let me ask you a question. I said, you're behind your teammate. You're running in second place. You see that freight train coming with that 54 and that 22 and that 11 behind you and 5 behind you. I said, do you jump out in front and take the freight train and go right by your teammate? He goes, absolutely, it's for the win.
Yeah. They want to win.
They say in the last 3 laps you have no friends. There's no teammates.
Wow.
So, you know,
Is that true in life, too? You know, life?
I don't know. I hope not. You know, he's a great kid. We had a great time with him. He was running late for his workout on Saturday, so I said to him, I said, you've got enough gas to get here, don't you? So he would have joined us today to make up for he forgot about calling us last week. You know, he had his dad on, so we missed the opportunity to have Bill Elliott and Chase Elliott for the first time ever on an interview.
Right.
But we're going to do that. But we had such an opportunity today to have one of my mentors. Before I get to introduce our guest today, what I want to do is take care of some business so we can go straight through with those few breaks because Dan has places to be and do out in Utah. Number one, I want to thank our sponsors, Kalen's Furniture and the great stressless chair that we have at Bodez that we're giving away for our member referral program. All that going in conjunction with our great promotion we have with our $5 join membership for the short-term 3-month membership so you can see the Bodez difference. Number two, I want to thank Dr. Lorenzo Fon, who is a big part of our equation in getting people healthy. Our great acupuncturist who has over 17 years of experience, been with him now for 6 years, and he does a great job from everything from stress reduction to helping people going through cancer treatment and that. And he's been great with my athletes, so I want to make sure we acknowledge our sponsors to the Fitness Friday show. And now, without further ado, you know, for the last 4 or 5 years, we've talked on the Fitness Friday show about the disease continuum, and I tell you that as a personal trainer, I'm very comfortable saying to you that we can reverse your disease process. We can get you off medications because we have a three-pronged attack. We're going to talk about that, but we have also 3 things we talk about. Number 1, inflammation is a cause of all disease. Number 2, stress is the mother of all inflammation. Number 3, we know through proper exercise habits, through the synergy that we have in our 3-step process, we'll talk in a minute, that we can reverse the effects of the stress, which in turn reverses the stress, the part of the inflammation, and we can reverse people's health and get it to an optimum situation. So one of my mentors is a functional physician by the name of Daniel Pompa. I've attended a few of his seminars. Unfortunately, I've missed 2 as well with situations. But one was the Greek festival, another time was the death of my mom. But Dan, it's a pleasure to have you on with me today. And you know, you are the first guy that I heard say the words, "Heal the cell, and the body will get well." And it really is a concept of empowering the body to heal itself. And just so people who have never heard the show before, our 3-step process at Bodez for you achieving your optimal health and achieving your goals, whether it's optimal weight, whether it's balancing your hormones, whether it's just getting more energy and vigor out of life, is this 3 steps. It's very simple. Number 1 is to address building lean body tissue so the metabolism is functioning. Number 2 is moderate aerobic exercise, which is our burst training, which you have your way of doing burst training that really opened my eyes to this concept, Dan. And then what we did is we took that concept and we have put it into our SciFit equipment, which I think is a much more efficient tool, which I haven't had the opportunity to get you on my machines yet and show you so you can see that. And you've actually seen my strength training philosophy out in Missouri when we were at the ranch. And then the third one is good nutrition, getting good nutrition, which is where you have been a great guide to me from that standpoint and really have showed me how to help people cure and heal themselves and really introduced to me fasting. I've known about fasting because my religious beliefs and my religious practice as an Orthodox Christian, but really showed me the medical side of it. So let's talk about a little bit about you first as a functional physician and that difference when people hear that term.
Yeah, I treat, I should say, I do most of what I do virtually now. So I don't have a brick and mortar practice anymore. So because I do so much teaching and seminars, I'm obviously leaving this morning to teach a seminar from doctors all over the country here in Salt Lake City, Utah. But I still see people from all over the world, but I just see them via Skype or over the phone in the country. And it's really seeing more of the unexplainable things, the chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, autoimmune, which really is an explanation for why so many people feel sick and just don't know why, whether it's thyroid, adrenal issues, inflammation issues that just really can really represent itself in a multiple different ways. Well, so yeah, it evolved really from my own battle. I went through some of my own battle in about year of 2000. For about 4 years, I was very, very sick, and I had an unexplainable illness. I didn't know what was wrong. I became very sick with insomnia and all types of hormone problems. I knew my thyroid wasn't working right. My blood work was normal. We hear that all the time, but yet it wasn't really the problem. It was more of an upstream issue. I ended up with, finding out that I had chronic mercury poisoning. I had fillings drilled out years before, some, and then, I had fillings in my whole life. I wore contact lenses, which had, there was the number one source of mercury, multiple exposures through my life, bioaccumulated. I ended up sick years later, like so many of the people that I see. So, yeah, that story is really what launched me into what I do today. So from pain to purpose, really. Now my protocols are being utilized all over the country by doctors all over the country, and we're helping thousands of people with even weight loss resistance, and an interest of yours. I'm sure your clients. I always say weight loss resistance today. It's a cellular issue. I call it cellular weight loss, and it really is a cellular issue. It really is a toxic issue, and matter of fact, most hormone problems today are cellular issues. So that's how I got here.
And I want to step back a moment and let people understand my journey that brought me to you. Really, in the early 2000s, we had a very, very successful weight loss program called Healthy Inspirations, and that program is built on typical non-deprivation type strategies. And by non-deprivation, I don't have my clients on 600 calories or 700 calories a day. They were eating 12, 15, 1,800 calories a day. They had a good exercise program. We were still working and combining the same synergy that we talked about at the first of the show. And we ran into an issue that as our women aged in that program, all of a sudden there seemed to be a great resistance to being able to be successful. And we said, well, how come you're not being successful? Maybe you're not following it as well as you did the first time. Maybe. And as I looked at anti-aging clinics, Dan, I looked at these anti-aging clinics, and when I looked at them, they reminded me of backroom steroid centers, at old fitness centers back in the 70s when I was training to play football at Tampa U. Guys go, hey, come in the back room here, I can make you big.
Yeah.
They literally, the PAs, the physician's assistants, either had a bodybuilding background or they had someone with them that was a bodybuilder to show them how to properly cycle the HGH or the testosterone or whatever. And it was very expensive. Enter you with talking to me about fasting to straighten up the cell and really to appreciate how our understanding of how the cell functions. People hear about inflammation, they think, oh, it's a scratch I got on my hand, but really the inflammation is at a cellular. Can you talk about just a moment, because the premise of what you do is cellular healing, and what we're going to talk about is cellular healing, because when we heal the cell, the body can get well. When I can get a person out of inflammation at the cellular level, what happens to them? They begin to lose weight, and they don't cut their calories back. They just eat right, and the body now, its metabolism comes along. Talk a little bit about what the difference is between, we view the cell, we took college or high school biology, and we view the cell as this flat thing that has a nucleus and all this, and we really know with the epigenetic studies, with what's going on with the technology we have now, and the microbial world that's around us, we have a much greater understanding of how the cell functions. Talk a little, just briefly, about the inflammation, so how it influences
Right now there's a massive gap in what's happening in the scientific world and what's happening in the treatment world. Some really exciting things in the last 5 years. I mean, we know more today, about genetics and how it's affecting our health. It's not the old dogma of, hey, you got your mom's obese or has diabetes, you're going to get it too. It's not so simple. These genes can be turned on and they can be turned off. We know today how these genes get turned on. The best part is we know how to turn them off, but we're not seeing this in the treatment world. So there's this massive gap that's occurred. And really a lot of the cellular healing concept that I teach is really focused around this new science. You can change your cell to get well. What if your gene is turned on and it's an obesity gene? Well, here's what happens, Tasso. I don't care how good you eat. I don't care what you do, and I'm not saying not to do those things or how much you exercise. You have a group of people out there today, and I know they're listening right now, that they're saying, hey, I eat well, Tasso. I exercise, and again, Tasso, I mean, your program is better than most. I mean, I know what you do. You actually took me through it and beat me up. But but let's there's a group of people that, despite eating my diet, despite exercising your way, they're not going to lose weight. And I know that group right now is going, yeah, that's me. Well, that's a cellular issue. Certain genes get turned on, and if you don't turn those genes off, then you're doomed. Matter of fact, weight loss is a cellular issue. Even I'll say it this way: all hormone conditions, whether you're battling an unexplainable thyroid condition with normal blood work still, because it'll take 30 years before your blood work goes off, adrenal issues, whatever it is, estrogen problems. There's multiple hormone problems around your cycles. These are all problems with the cell. It's not a problem with needing more hormones. It's a problem with the cells receiving the hormones. So what are we doing today? You just described it, Tasso. You said we're lining up at $1,500, $2,000 a month for more hormones. Oh, if you're blessed with a disease, then your insurance might pay for them. So we're giving people more hormones. It's not the answer. The answer is the cell can't hear the hormone. So giving more hormones actually makes the cell more deaf. Also, the best analogy I can give people is, at least those who have kids, and those who don't, I'll give you another one. We've shouted at our kids before, and it works in the beginning, doesn't it? They look at you and go, okay, whatever you say, Mom or Dad. However, the more we shout, the less they start to hear us. And we find ourselves shouting at kids who don't hear us anymore with no effect. That is the process of giving hormones, even bioidentical hormones. The cells become more deaf, just like our children become more deaf. Or it's like dumping gasoline on a car. It's like it does nothing unless you can get the gasoline in the car. So unless you can get the hormones utilized in the cell, it doesn't matter how many you take. In the beginning, it always seems to work, and then it doesn't work anymore. And right now, that's an epidemic of people, and your callers are listening going, they're on thyroid hormone, they're taking these hormones. The key is hormone sensitivity. And Tasso, one of the simplest tools we have is something called intermittent fasting, where you just control when you eat, not even so much what you eat, but control when you actually take in food. And by allowing our bodies to go through a fasting mode beyond a normal sleep for 8 or 10 hours, well, it's a simple way to become more hormone sensitive and raise growth hormone, raise testosterone, raise our healing ability, and it's magic. And I've read some articles about that concept.
Right, and I want to digress for one moment, Dan, and I want to talk about, people say to me all the time, I'm taking thyroid, or they're giving me Armor, or whatever it's called, and my hormone levels are normal, and the doctor still can't figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
And the reality is their hormone levels are normal because they're being given something to normalize those levels. It doesn't mean that the thyroid or the adrenals or the hypothalamus or the pituitary are functioning correctly.
No, it's so true. Matter of fact, there's zero evidence, there's zero studies showing that normal TSH levels have anything to do with normal thyroid function. So that's the gold standard. When a doctor looks at your TSH, he'll give you a medication, and then he'll remeasure the TSH and say, oh, you're okay now. And you're going, wait a minute, I'm still fatigued. I still have weight that I never had before, even though I'm eating better. My hair's still thin. And the list of symptoms go on.
My energy levels
from
down.
Constipation
Right.
to hot flashes.
Right.
They all can be linked actually to a thyroid issue. But yet my blood work's perfect. So what's the problem? Well, you just said it. The hormones will make your blood work normal, but it doesn't mean it's getting its gasoline in the car. It doesn't mean it's getting its the thyroid hormone functioning in the cell. So yeah, this is an epidemic of people. You don't fix the cell, you won't get well. Whether it's an estrogen problem, whether it's a cancer-related issue, diabetes, other hormone problems, weight loss resistance, the cell's the issue.
So I want to take a moment, and you're teaching physicians that come to your seminars, what you call the 5 R's of this cellular healing process. And I'm going to run down them very quickly, and then we'll come back and go over it. I just want people to know the terminology and the way you look at this issue, and then we'll talk about some of the tools that you use, because you've introduced me to a product that I'm going to have knee replacement surgery next Wednesday, and you've introduced me to a product. By the way, tell our girl I won't be in Salt Lake City for the Sunshine Seminar, but you've introduced me to a product we'll talk about that helps along with this intermittent fasting. I just went. I wanted to get my weight down, and I wanted to really want my immune system up, so I went through a 4-day Swervo fast. And during that 4 days, 4 days previous and after, I've been using this product that you got me switched on to. But I want to talk first about this 5-step process you have. As I said, I'm going to go over the 5 things very quickly, because Dave will tell you we'd never get through 5 with you and me talking. Number 1, the first R is to remove the source, and we'll come back and talk about these. Number 2 is to regenerate the cell membrane.
Yeah.
Number 3 is to restore cellular energy. Number 4 is to reduce inflammation, and number 5 is to reestablish methylation. So let's start in a 20-minute type of fashion that we have available to us. Let's give the best overview of this to our people that are listening.
Yeah, I think we can go through it very quickly, just to give people an idea that is a roadmap of how you fix a cell. How I always say true detoxification has to occur at the cell. And if you don't do that, if you don't fix the cell, not only are you not going to get well, but you're not going to really have a true detox experience at the cellular level. But our number 1 is removing the source. When we look at, we talked a little bit about turning on genes. When we look at that research, we know that certain chemicals can turn on a gene. And one of the videos that I always like to show is how it was a Stanford University study where they took mice and they exposed them to a certain toxin that, by the way, most of us are exposed to every day. And when this toxin bioaccumulates, you start to turn on bad genes. In the mice's case, it turned on something called an agouti gene, which caused them to gain weight and become obese. The sad part is what they found is the next generation of mice was they were born with that gene turned on. So when they became little teenage mice, they became obese with thyroid conditions, and their hair starting to fall out and pale and dry. And so they ate the exact same diet. Matter of fact, the study was done in identical twin mice. They took perfect, same DNA, brothers and sisters, etc., and they put them on the same diet, exercised them the same. But in one group, they exposed them to the toxin. That group got the gene turned on. That group became obese, despite their diet. The best part of the study is they gave them certain things, and they were able to turn off the gene. And, of course, then they were able to lose weight and become normal again. So that is the best part, but probably the most ignored part about that study. But anyway, so our number 1 is you have to remove the source. We have to remove the thing that turned on the gene in the first place. And there's magic in that. Our number 2 is simply you have to regenerate the cell membrane of your cell. Why is that important? Well, that's where the hormone receptors are. If you don't fix that, you're never, ever, ever, ever going to fix your hormones, and therefore perhaps your weight loss resistance or whatever other hormone condition you're dealing with. You're never going to detox your cell because the membrane is what allows the good stuff in and the bad stuff out. And you're never going to change your genes because we know now it's that membrane that actually can turn on the DNA or turn off the DNA. So, very, very important. Our number 3 is restoring that cellular energy. And what we've learned now is that, look, you can't turn off that gene expression, whatever it is, whether it's a thyroid thing you're expressing from your DNA, whether it's fatigue, whether it's anxiety, depression, Well, you can't do it without enough cellular energy. Matter of fact, you can't do just about any cellular function, even lose weight, without enough cellular energy. And one of the things I had realized early on is it's typically one of the first things that we have to restore. And there's obviously a lot of different methods, and we'll talk about one product you had mentioned, and we'll get to that as a real key.
And, Dan, I don't mean to cut you off at this point, but I want to come back and I want to say one thing. You talk about cleansing, you talk about detoxification, and I want people to understand from the medical standpoint that you look at it, it is not a pill they take. It is not a cayenne pepper fast like we see so often in the media being glorified and stuff. This is a philosophy of the style of how we eat, as well as how the source of food that we put. And the thing, you have a bunch of different fasts that you use with your, which we're not going to get into today, of course, but that you use with your patients. You have, I think, when I remember it correctly, it's like 7 different fasts that you can use.
Right.
I've been taught to use 2 or 3 of them from what we've done together. But the fact of the matter is I get a little scared when we talk to people about cleansing or detox, because they're going to run out and they're going to get this supercharged product that's on the Walmart thing. And understand, you're eating food. It's how the timing with the food. It really is a very easy process to follow, quite frankly, and nothing that should be so scary to people that, well, I've heard people die from fast or detoxes and stuff. So hopefully we'll get to that. But let's come back and talk about the next step in the 5 R's.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, detox has to be at the cellular level, and it has to be done correctly. So, but yeah, I mean, just to get through them, I mean, R4 is reducing inflammation, which we know inflammation is the cause of all disease. But for a lot of people listening, they don't even really understand what that means, and I understand that. It's not, inflammation that we're talking about isn't inflammation of your knee, for example, or your sore shoulder. That is inflammation. But we're talking about inflammation of every cell in the body. Once that cell membrane inflames, now we start to affect our hormone receptors. We can't hear the hormones anymore. We just spoke about that, and that's an epidemic problem today. So obviously we have methods to do that, including diet. And by the way, eating, a lot of things we do, we call 180-degree opposite, 180-degree diet, so to speak, meaning that we believe in high fat, moderate protein. High fat is the key to fixing the cell membrane. High fat is the key to normalizing hormones. High fat is the key to weight loss. But it's not just the average fat.
And let's be very, very sure to communicate to people. There's 3 main sources of why inflammation is really planted in the body so firmly in this society we have. It's number 1, overconsumption of refined sugar and grains. Mm-hmm. Number 2 is the bad fats and the toxins they get from food sources, cosmetics, air pollution, that type of thing. Again, back to the initial introduction to you was after Phil Kaplan, a good friend, did a seminar on our roundtable that talked about, hey, listen, we're going to talk about the quality of the food you eat, the air you breathe, and the water you drink. And I had no idea until I met you in Fort Lauderdale. I heard you on the webinars with Phil, and then met you in person, and had no idea about the role of things as simple as cosmetics, that women auto-intoxicate themselves every day, which really makes the issue a lot worse and causes this oxidative stress that we go through with the inflammation that occurs, as well as the stress they go through in life.
Yeah, and by the way, what you said, women's cosmetics and personal care products, I think the numbers look like this. I think the average woman uses 518 chemicals every morning. Men, you're about half that, believe it or not. I mean, still, you're saying 200 and some chemicals I'm using? What do you mean? In personal care products, those chemicals are absorbed right into our bloodstream. And by the way, some of those same chemicals are what they gave the mice to cause them to gain weight and turn on that gene. So in 216 of that 500, some are known to cause cancer. How does it do that? Well, it changes the DNA, see? Turns on some bad genes, and it will turn on your genes of susceptibility. So it's not the fact that your parents had those genes. The fact is what is turned on. Certain chemicals will turn on those genes. But our number 5 is methylation and reestablishing methylation. Most people today have basically a depletion of something called methyl donors in their body, and those things we need to adapt to stress, whether it's physical, chemical, or emotional. you need these methyl doses to turn on that stress adaptation. So when you're stressed out chemically, using a lot of different chemicals in our diet, using your personal care products in the morning, 518 chemicals, and then you're emotionally stressed. And then you're even doing something positive like exercise. It's still stress you have to adapt to. Well, it's the accumulation of those stressors that start to turn on these bad genes. So, yeah, Tazo, and then, methylation, when, it becomes very depleted because that's how you adapt to the stressors. So one of the things that we do is we have to reestablish that methylation. So those 5 R's really just gives us a roadmap. I teach doctors that, and it's even caught on with patients. But, I've written articles about that on my website that they can read.
And it's funny you should say, because I was just going to say, people want to read about this a little bit, is Dr. Pompa, DRPOMPA.com is a great resource, and they can look at some of the things. You've got several articles there. You have videos that are posted. You're on YouTube very prevalently. You're one of my favorite YouTube sites because of the education that goes on. So now let's talk about...
Okay, Tasso, I got to do a shameless plug. Right after this call, before I head to the seminar, I do Fridays. I do Cellular Health TV.
Right.
So I'm sorry, cellularhealingtv.com. So they can watch the live show that we do right after this one. Cellular Healing TV.
Oh, that's neat.
Yeah,
cellularhealingtv.com,
and we do a live show, and I'm talking about on that show just some of the myths about gluten in casein, which is the protein in dairy. It's not what you think. So, tune into that show right after this one on cellularhealingtv.com.
And, Dr. Dan, I got to tell you, we have a real issue with GMO products and how cattle are fed. And you and I are big believers in grass-fed and grass-finished beef. We're big believers in whole milk. Actually, I forget the name of the book right now. There's a great book on the New York bestseller list that she has put great evidence into how we've really turned the corner the wrong way with all the no-fat and low-fat stuff that we've done through the years and artificial sweeteners and villainizing fat the way we did.
Yeah.
But I have one of my workout partners is an old farm boy, and he rides all over the country on his motorcycle. And he told me that he just went through the whole state of Illinois, and he drove through nothing but fields of beans, wheat, and corn. He says it was really eerie. He says because he did not see one varmint, one animal. He didn't even see a buzzard. He saw one buzzard on the whole trip, longevity going from the tip to the top of Illinois. He saw one buzzard. He says 5-10 years ago, you'd go through there, you'd have to look at wildlife running across the road. You'd see some roadkill here. You'd see buzzards everywhere. It's like they weren't eating the crops. They weren't even in the fields where the crops were. And this kid's he's a farmer. He's an old farmer, so he's very aware of what's happened to farming. Where they, on his farm with his dad, they used to turn the soil and plow the field and different crops through the year to rotate to replenish the soil. And now what we have is they scratch the surface, they put the seeds in, and they throw down their insecticides. And they grow it, and they don't even tend the crop till they go back and they harvest it, and I said to him, I said, Jim, I said, this is the product of GMO. That's why when I go to eat, I don't eat corn. When I don't eat corn.
Will not eat corn unless it's 100% organic. I don't eat many grains at all in my diet, if any. But listen, hey Tasso, for those listening, they can go back to a show that I did on Cellular Healing TV, and there's past episodes. You can get there from my website too, the DR Pompa. And I did a show on GMO and how that with a chemical that they're spraying like wildfire all over those GMO crops called glyphosate, which, by the way, is the same company who produces this chemical that's the active ingredient in Roundup, is the same company who blessed us, or I'm saying that facetiously, with GMO crops, which are using 4 to 10 times the amount of glyphosate, which is a chemical that we know now is causing massive problems with the gut in our children, causing allergies. It's linked to brain conditions from autism, from Parkinson's, and the senior scientists at MIT just released in the last year some amazing papers showing the link of this chemical to so many of the disorders that we're seeing today. And it's absolutely, and a lot of the hormone things that we're talking about. So we'll go back and watch that episode on Cellular Healing TV. I tell you, it will turn you from just like Tasso and I. We won't touch corn.
Yeah.
So yeah, scary stuff, Tasso.
Right. So let's talk about first of all, let's talk about the role of fasting and how it helps aging and raising testosterone levels naturally and that type of thing. Because and I believe that our habits that we now have are things that cause us to be obligated. Then why are you seeing so many commercials for Viagra and low T? It's sort of the name it, blame it, and then sell it to people kind of thing. And all these are avoidable through just our good nutrition habits if we cleanse the body and we eat right.
Yeah, you can drive up naturally growth hormone and testosterone, and fasting and intermittent fasting is a way to do that. You sell a product called it's a whey water product. I know most people listening are saying, "Oh, I take whey protein." No, it's not whey protein. Whey water is one of the products we use for some of our intermittent fasts. It's actually called healing water. Actually, there's almost zero protein in it, so it's not whey protein. But it has a very profound effect on the liver, the kidneys, and the gut, and the cell. It resets the sodium-potassium ratio at the cell, which is the most basic way your cell moves things in and out. So it's an amazing fast, and I know they can come to your clinic and be introduced to that product and also how you do that cleanse, so to speak.
Right.
But it's something that's been around for thousands and thousands of years as a healing tool. And it's one of our intermittent fasts. Like you said, we have several ways of doing it, even daily. So, lot to learn there. But I know that you teach this principle, and people can come to you and learn it.
Well, I want to tell you, Dan, is when I tell people that people go to me, they come in, they go like, they say, you're not going to like training me. And I say, why is that? They say, because I don't like eating breakfast. And I go like, no, that's okay with me. I said, in actuality, you've made a change of a paradigm that I've made a change to. I eat breakfast maybe one time a week when I go to a networking event, but other than that, I
got to tell you this. This just happened yesterday. So a gentleman, I hadn't seen him in a while. I'm looking at him going, oh my gosh, man, he like transformed. Okay, his waist went down to like, I'm sure he lost like 4 waist sizes, and his shoulders looked massive. It looked like he was like, took up bodybuilding. He didn't, I assure you. He's an amazing businessman. But he says, Dan, he sat down. First thing he said, he says, Dan, I've got to tell you, I have put 10 pounds of muscle on, and I virtually have done nothing. Why is that? I said, because your testosterone and growth hormone went up naturally. He's intermittent fasting. He's not eating breakfast in the morning. Yeah. He's continuing his nightly fast, and he's basically allowing his body to go into this intermittent fasting phase on a daily basis. A lot of the things that we talk about, Tasso, and we'll have to do a show on this, I call the 180-degree lifestyle or 180-degree answer, which is basically doing the opposite of everything that you hear in the media, and somehow you hit it right every time, whether it comes to diet, anything, honestly, any topic. And this sure is one of them. Breakfast is the most important meal of the day. Well, we only say that in the United States. So every other country, they think it's the opposite. Well, there's truth to that. I would argue this. For many people who are eating their muscle all night because of their cellular inability to utilize fat for energy, breakfast becomes the most important meal of the day. However, once we fix them, and intermittent fasting is part of that, then you realize that breakfast can actually be the worst thing that you can do because your body's still in a fasting mode. So a lot to talk about. We're opening up Pandora's box.
Yeah, and this, that was we need to get off that topic, but I got to tell you, that was one of the hardest adaptations I had to make to my philosophy. And at first I had to start with, well, listen, do I see more athletes or do I see more sick people? And again, we go back to an athlete who is a bronze medalist at the World Championships that I called you about, is Curtis Mitchell. Well, Curtis, when he first came to me, we couldn't fast him because of the workload that he carried. Uh-huh. And actually, when I first talked to you about Curtis, he was inactive. He couldn't participate. And we couldn't fast him by a traditional fast because just the schedule he kept was too much. So we used the whey water product. We used the Amasi. And we got him doing some things, and we got him to change nothing other than this eating style.
Yeah.
And previously I would have told you, well, we're not going to do that with the athletes. Got him to change the eating style. He leans out and his hamstring problem goes away, along with the help with Dr. Fahn, one of our sponsors of the show, who did a great job on him. And the kid goes and finds himself in the lane next to Usain Bolt, he ran the fastest time at the World Championships in the 200 meters. We use the same philosophy with him.
Well, I'll tell you, in the athletic world, there's some dogma and old concepts that really need to be busted, and they are. I think we're seeing a change, but it's a slow change, and that's one of them. I mean, this idea of raising growth hormone and these hormones that we need to feel better and heal faster. One way to do it is by intermittent fasting and really what it can do. And I think we're starting to see that in the athletic world, even healing from injuries. One of the biggest problems with athletes is they overtrain. The key is stressing the body and then adapting, right? And through that
Preach it, brother. Preach it.
Is where that's the magic, right? That's where the magic happens. Well, intermittent fasting allows you to recover at such a fast rate.
I've had Kim Woods on the show with me, who was a strength coach at Cincinnati Bengals for 30 years. I'm going to have Jim Flanagan on in a couple weeks. Over the next year, I'm going to have a lot of people because I was looking at an old video of Arthur Jones, a developer of knowledge sports medicine, and Arthur made a comment. He says, 25 years ago, I heard a guy say this, and I understand it to be more true today than ever. And he said, I should have listened when I heard him. And he said that it was in the age of this video was taken in the 80s when everybody was marathon workouts kind of thing. Longer the workout, the better. And he said, we are obsessed with trying to see how much our bodies can train.
Yeah.
When in reality, we should work to see how minimal working out we should do, stimulus we should apply to get the maximum benefit. And that's what my
no doubt. If we put as much into the recovery and what you do after you break the muscle down, like you said, if you're doing the right exercise the right way, you can stress the body of the muscle in such a positive way very quickly, right?
Yep.
And that's really all you have to do. And then the magic is allowing it to recover.
And this is going to be a great bridge, but I want to tell this one story. I had a lady moved up from Miami, and she was, typical South Beach, Miami kind of stuff, and she came to our club, and she spent 2 hours at our club looking at members, talking to them, does this really work? And because she couldn't believe that we were talking about, she's talking about our one-on-one program. I said, well, your workout's going to be about 12 to 14 minutes, and your aerobic work is going to be 6 minutes long. And she goes, I can't get results in that. She says, I'm over 50. My body's not going to change. So listen, I'm the only guy that trains people that has a 30-day money-back guarantee on my personal training program. So she goes, well, why would you do that? I said, because I believe in what I do, and I have science behind what I do, and we're evidence-based in what we do. And so she joins. She joins at 10 o'clock in the morning. At 4 o'clock, she calls and says, I have to cancel my membership. She said, my son signed me up for another gym because he doesn't think you guys know what you're talking about.
Oh, God.
And I said, and I just laughed. I said, come get your check. I said, you can't fix stupid, But again, you call. I want to change. I want to change the discussion now. But it's a very nice transition to what we were talking about. Is you called me about a month and a half ago, very excited about a product. And ironically, this product, when I went to the website and I looked at this, you told me use this to heal people, but the testimonies on the ASEA site are athletes, triathletes, world caliber. The guys won like more Ironman competitions than ever. Is on this product. Tell us a little bit about the ASEA product. And
it's a product, and I don't want to get too deep into the science. I fear I'll lose people. But it's a product that 4 years ago I was introduced to it, and I was cycling a heck of a lot more then, But I was an expert cyclist at one point in my day. But it's a product that raises VO2 max, and it does it naturally, and it's amazing. I mean, it's the studies prove that it raises VO2 max, and it's amazing the power output differences. So that's what interested me in the product. But you'll see. I mean, when we talk about the 5 R's of cellular healing, it's a product that really hits every R. You know, it really does. I mean, it really can change gene expression. It really can have a detox effect because it raises something called glutathione. It really does help you recover dramatically after exercise. I still, to this day, I take it before I exercise. I take it after I exercise. And again, yet I have all of my autoimmune clients around the world on the product. I have my very sickest of sick because it raises cellular energy. And remember what I said, that's oftentimes the first thing that we have to do to get a patient well. Otherwise, our other treatments simply just do not hold. They don't work. They become sensitive. They become food sensitive. But when you raise the cellular energy, you can take down those sensitivities. So, yeah, I mean, it's neat. It's a product that you would literally start to consume and think you were drinking pool water. It's in a base of sodium chloride. Well, what is in a base of sodium chloride? Something called redox molecules. New science, folks. I'm not going to lose you here, I promise, in the biochemistry, but it's reduction in oxidative stress molecules. These molecules are needed for every hormone to work in your body. These molecules are needed for your cellular detox pathways to work. These molecules are needed for really every cellular process, even making cellular energy. So today, so many people have a massive reduction in these redox molecules. By the way, so many athletes, because they stress these pathways. And these redox molecules is how everything works at the cellular level. So when we put them back in, amazing stuff happens. And people go, oh my gosh, I have amazing energy. Matter of fact, Tasha, it's one of those products that no matter what, someone should see a difference. And every amount is different. So if someone's going, yeah, I'm taking, I don't notice anything, up your dose. And one of two things will happen. You'll either go, oh my gosh, it's like I feel like a new person, or you'll say I'm getting some headaches and some detox symptoms. We call that a Herx reaction. It's great. Back down the dose a little bit till that goes away, and then work back up again.
And here's an interesting thing.
If you're, it's one of those things. If you don't notice anything, then you need more. But no matter what, people notice something.
Dan, you put me on. Now they recommend 4 ounces a day, and
right?
You put me on 10, getting ready for the surgery, right?
Yeah.
And so I've still been training. I mean, I'm going to train Wednesday morning before I go. I'm going to do my 12-minute workout. Actually, my workout was 13 minutes and 17 seconds the other day. I'm going to train before I go to the hospital, and I'm going to, now I'm going to drink the redox formula, the Acea, after I work out, because I haven't been doing that.
Yeah.
But I noticed two things. I noticed that I wouldn't tell you that, boy, I feel great today, man. This stuff is amazing. I've been taking it 2 weeks, right? Now you got me taking out 10 ounces a day, but all of a sudden, last night, Mike Bataski, Mike, lives in Atlanta. He asked me, "Are you feeling any difference with the product?" I go, and I had to think, and I go like, well, I have noticed that I'm starting to peak my strength again. I'm getting a little stronger. I mean, I've gone up, like on my chest press, I've gone up, 18 pounds in 2 weeks. Which is I've been creeping up by 2 pounds at a time, and my partners yelled at me because they thought I was being cocky. I said, put it up 10 pounds next time, because that felt pretty easy, and they were giving me grief about that. And then the other thing I had happen to me, which really just struck me now, is I thought I was getting shingles because, for the surgery, you cut your nutritional supplements off. So I thought with all the stress I'm under work-wise, I must be getting shingles, man. I'm getting these little blister aggravations in different parts of my body. And that's just a healing crisis going on, right?
That's right. Exactly. Like I said, no matter what, I mean, it upregulates glutathione, which is, one of the ways something your body uses to detox the cell. And in that process, it will purge some things. So that's why we have a way of giving it, so, people really, we don't want to create too much detox at once. But, yeah, I mean, it is an amazing product, it really is. And I actually know there's a physicist here in Utah that they paid a lot of money to stabilize the product. It used to be given IV for cancer patients because of what it does at the cell. And he stabilized it, and brilliant guy. And matter of fact, he's going to be speaking a little bit at my seminar this weekend, and he's so bright. His expertise is in nanotechnology, and through the stabilization of this product, we're able to take it orally. But I give it even to my kids. My kids all take it. So years ago, it's funny because when someone introduced me to it, I basically said, yeah, I'll try it. I was interested in it from the athletic standpoint. I started giving it to my wife, who she had this chronic problem in her, lower neck, upper back, of pain. And she took it, and years of doing everything. And within like 2 or 3 weeks, it was gone, completely gone. So, that convinced me of that product back then. And then, utilizing it with a lot of my autoimmune and really difficult clients, it's been a blessing, Tasso. That's all I can tell you. I mean, it's one of those products that, I use it for everybody. And, it's an amazing cellular product for sure.
Can you talk a little bit about, and we only have about a few minutes, and we have actually a caller waiting to ask a question about Arthur Jones, and I didn't want to interrupt our discussion because I know you have to get out a little bit early to get to your.
Yeah, I do. I have another show I have to do, the Cellular Healing TV. So hopefully some of your listeners will join us. And
again, they can get to you by drpompa.com. They can come to me if they want to go because, Dan, you've been, I really think, Phil Kaplan, my association with Phil Kaplan, from a thought process has made me a much better trainer from a business standpoint. He's tried to change my training philosophy. He tells me I'm too old school, and I said, Phil, I think I'm new school. I think what we do is so different than what everybody else does. We're not into boot camps. We're not into functional training. We can do all that, and I can tell you how we do every bit of it our way. And so we are different. We're non-conventional. You and I we're a match made in heaven because you're 180 degrees different. I'm not telling people you got to exercise 6 days a week. I'm going like, hey, listen, we need to 2 days a week, man. We can get results if you'll work hard. I mean, my
next book is basically that. It's the 180 degree answer, and the way you train people, it's 180 degrees opposite of what most people have heard. But look, it's either true or it's not, and it's true. What you do works. It really is backed by the real science that most people aren't hearing. Everything we teach, just the fact that fat is the key to losing weight. Fat's the key to hormones. Oh, and not just fat, but fats like saturated fat and cholesterol, which are key. I know it's opposite, folks, of what you've heard, but it's always 180 degrees to the truth, and I'm convinced of it. I call them sheeple. When everyone's making a left, somehow I always think, making the right must be the right way.
Yeah.
So, it's true every time. So, Tasso, I take my hat off to you as standing bold at 180 degree different in how you believe workouts should be done. And you know what, Tasso? We may have to put a little piece in the book about that.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that opportunity. And I'm sorry that I haven't made the last 2 seminars just because of life situations, and I won't make the Sunshine Symposium. But, I want to tell people that Dan, this journey for me started hearing about cholesterol from you, quite frankly.
Yeah.
And all the things and the statins, and I was having a conversation with someone yesterday that says, I seem to be losing my memory since they put me on this. And I had my whole conversation about leptin and ghrelin with them. And listen, you need cholesterol to have leptin and ghrelin, which not only controls your appetite and your accessibility to burning your fat, but guess what? It's responsible for changing over your brain cells. Imagine that.
Let me just leave them on this note, and I hope they can join some of the Cellular Healing TV show next. But again, a back episode I did on cholesterol, so please go back. It's a life changer. Make all your relatives that think they have a cholesterol problem watch the show. You'll hear the truth about cholesterol. But I'll say this. I mentioned that leading scientist, senior scientist out of MIT. A lot of the new studies coming out of there are showing that it's actually a cholesterol deficiency that is driving not just heart disease, but so many of the conditions like Alzheimer's and others today. Yes, a cholesterol deficiency, folks. We've been taught to fear cholesterol, and now we're learning that it is actually a cholesterol deficiency that is driving the problem. So I know it's 180 degrees opposite of what your doctor's telling you, what you heard on the Today Show, but that is where the truth typically lies. So, Tasso, thanks for having me, and I'm always excited to be on your show because you are absolutely a 180-degree trainer. There's no doubt about that. And a 180-degree person, you live a 180-degree lifestyle. I call those people 3%ers. 3% of the population typically is bold enough to go in the opposite direction and stand for the truth, and that's you, Tasso. So thank you for doing that.
Dan, thanks for joining me out of your busy schedule out in Utah, and I'll talk to you sometime in this next month.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Bye-bye, buddy.
Want to see if Sandy waited through?
Yeah, Sandy, I apologize for making you wait. How are you today?
That's quite all right, Tasso. I haven't talked to you in, almost 30 years. I worked for Arthur Jones at his TV studio for 2.5 years.
Yep.
I was totally untrained. I doubled my strength under the training of Elliot Darden and John Mondar within about 6 weeks. And I wondered if you remembered when Arthur Jones hired Boyer Co. for the specific purpose of finding out someone at a higher level of fitness, what the minimum amount of exercise necessary to maintain that level of fitness was.
I do remember that, and I remember Arthur blowing people away, saying that he had people he was trained that. Now, this was after he did his all-negative study with Casey Vidar and had such great results.
Right.
This is another 8-9 years later. In fact, this video that I'm telling you about that I was watching from the old days that Terry gave me is from 1984. Now, if you listen to this video, if you watch this, you'd think that Arthur was talking today when he talked about obesity and osteoporosis.
Yes. He's one of the two geniuses I've ever met in my life, without a doubt.
And he made this announcement at that. He says, and he was talking about Boyer, and he was talking about another elite bodybuilder. He says, I don't need to train him, but once every 15 days. And people are going what?
Yeah, I'm serious. I actually witnessed one of Boyer's 4 exercise routines, which he was doing once a week at that point, I think.
Yep.
And the man was totally exhausted.
And
if he'd run a marathon.
Right.
I mean, it took everything out of him, that one workout a week.
Yeah,
Arthur believed in intensity, and it's funny, your guest's last topic was cholesterol. Arthur also said, if you're fit, you don't need to worry about cholesterol. Cholesterol lubricates the arteries, and it keeps you healthy as long as you do the work.
Right. And then, the other thing is, and the evidence of this, talk about 180 turnaround to this philosophy, is when Arthur developed the MEDEX at the University of Florida. If you get the opportunity to talk to Dr. Mike Fulton, you'll see that they have people that when they deal with rehabbing backs, some of these people, they got great data now. Because you know what, I remember watching one of the videos, Sandy, that was done, and they were just showing the computerized machines, and they had the professor that was doing the research on it, and he couldn't get the damn thing to reset right. It was like, it was like a bloopers film trying to get the test done on Tom LaPupka, who's now the mayor of Orange City.
Yep, I knew Tom.
Yeah, but the thing about it is that that now the research and the technology allows us, and if you were to go to Dr. Mike Fulton, he can show you the physical research that now shows the frequency of training could be as little as once every 9 or 10 days for these rehab projects, whereas conventional rehab philosophy with functional fitness is training people still 3 times a week.
Right.
So yeah, I'd love to get to see you again, Sandy. I appreciate you calling in, and maybe sometime get in contact with me at the club at 672-6464 so we can have you as a guest, because it'd be great to reminisce with you on that stuff. So,
I'd love to do it. Have a great weekend, Tasso.
Right, thank you very much. Before we go, once again, we did it at the top of the show, but I want to thank Kalen's Home Furnishings as one of our sponsors of the show, and their great stressless chair that we're giving away at our membership promotion. I'd love to thank Dr. Lorenzo Fon for his help and care and sponsor of this show. And I want to remind all of you that there's a $5 joining fee right now at Bodez Personalized Fitness, a 3-month membership. The monthly dues are only $39.50 now. It's normally a $199 enrollment and $59.50 a month. So think of those savings and be able to get involved, see what the Bodez difference is. God bless. The number is 672-6464. Have a wonderful weekend. Dave, this show will be recorded and run next week because I won't be with you.
Daytona's news, Daytona's weather, and Daytona's traffic can only be found on Daytona's morning news station. AM 1150 WNDB, Daytona Beach.